Welcome to the IDP Guys podcast. Today we're going to discuss the IDP rankings for week 13. As you guys already know, I'm Steve Hungarter. I'm a writer over here. I'm also a writer over at the Fantasy Six Pack, as well as an ECR ranker for Fantasy Pros. So we're going to dig in. We're going to discuss the rankings for IDP this week. My Twitter handle is IDP Hunter. Feel free to message me there. Today's guest is Gary Van Dyke, aka Alias, the IDP Tipster. If we were on the Wild West and we had a wanted poster and it said Billy the Kid, reward $1,000, you would see Gary Van Dyke's name, aka the IDP Tipster, for $2,000. That's how much I think of you, my friend. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Just chilling, getting in the groove with this.
So thanks. You're digging my music. All right.
Yeah.
So Gary's a content creator and IDP writer, and he works over at the Fantasy Faceoff. But there's something else I want to tell you guys about Gary. Okay, I've been playing since 2004. Very few things. I know the complaint about IDP is there's not enough content. Okay, everyone always says that. Well, can you imagine playing as long as we have, Gary? There wasn't anything out there. And I don't know what your introduction was to the IDP, but I got bored with regular leagues. I got bored with Superflex. I got bored playing 10-team leagues, 12-team leagues. So I wanted a little challenge. And I went out there, and I'm going to say around 2016, 17, if my timeline's right, there wasn't really a lot of content. And you, my friend, you were the only guy out there, and you were hitting it. You were hitting them out of the park with your player profiles. You are one of the best in the business, and I'm very humble and grateful for you to come on my show today, Gary.
Man, I really appreciate the chance to come on with you. I mean, we've talked a few times in the past, we might know each other a little bit. So I think this is going to be really cool, man. Been looking forward to it since you asked me to come on, man. Thanks. Appreciate it.
It's kind of fun because we've played in a couple of leagues. We bumped into each other over the years, but, we never really formally, in the industry. So I'm looking forward to this podcast, and let me just show you some of the stuff we do over here, Gary. This is the scoring format for Fantasy Pros. One thing I usually do with my guests, I usually ask them, does anything stick out to you? I don't know how you are. I'm always looking for that wrinkle, or I'm always looking for that little cheat code that I can draft off of or maybe exploit. But here's your scoring. Standard scoring for the audience on Spotify that can't see my screen. I just pulled up the Fantasy Pro scoring, which is solo tackles 1.5, assisted tackles 0.75, tackles for loss 2, sacks is 4, interceptions 5, forced fumbles 4, fumble recoveries 4, defensive touchdowns 6, safeties are 2, pass defense 1.5, and so forth and so forth. Anything jump out at you there?
Yeah, actually, I'm not a ranker, so I love being on here with you, man, especially with somebody that's just killing it this year in Fantasy Pros. But I used to, and I got on there, man, and I'll tell you what, definitely this is just tackle heavy across the board. I mean, when you got sacks down here at only 4 points, I kind of never got used to that. I'm more of a 6-point type guy, bring those DLs and outside linebackers and edge rushers up. So, and they're a little tipsy there with the very nice 5 points for interception, 4 for forced fumbles and fumble recoveries. So that's a nice little tweak there to get a little splash play out of this.
That's a good point. The tackle savvy, that's kind of what I feast my eyes on. Axon Harding was on here a couple weeks ago. He was talking about the pass to flex. So those are our two little key areas. But I focus on the tackle savvy, especially for defensive linemen, which is what we'll do first. You're going to see I'm a little bit of a weird ranker, man. You got to make the moves when no one else is looking. But one thing about this format, I have not 1, not 2, not 3, some weeks even 4 defensive tackles, which is a bit extreme. But if the mood is right and the scoring's right, I can put them up there. And by it. Matchup.
Oh yeah, you're preaching to the choir, brother. I remember I lean on those start sits and those D-Gen DT plays, man. I love them. McNeil in Detroit, Matabuki, I see Dallas guy. There's a couple. There's actually quite a few groups this year in defensive tackle area. Even earlier in the season, Seattle Seahawks, the interior defensive line wasn't worth a shit. But even before Leonard Williams, we were getting some DT2, production. And there's a couple of teams in this year that's actually allowed that. That's pretty cool. I like that.
And it's so funny, when we first started playing to now, there wasn't a lot of content out there. So I mean that with all my heart. I mean, the only really guidance we had, I don't know, I was playing on Yahoo back then. Hey, draft an inside linebacker and then draft a strong safety. Mm-hmm. Well, there's more to the game than just that.
Yep.
You know, you can play tackles, you can play corners. It's so neat to see the game expounding. And this newer audience, they're so smart. Give me a younger person that's learning to play IDP over some guy that's been playing 30 years any day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, the man on the phones. It's like I'll tell you, man, from the time, I don't know about you, but from the time that I really started seeing us flip from what you would consider to be your regular tackle heavy type of format was probably around the late 2000s. I was in a 32 team, one copy, cap contract, full complement. I think we had 22 starters a week. And I was a commission of this thing for 10 years. And at that point, I had entered into what I just called a balanced scoring format, which just brought up all the IDP, brought them all up within range of each other, just like some people like to do now with a certain other one that I won't mention the name of what it's called. But either way, so I was kind of playing, and it was also balanced versus offense, where a linebacker did have the value of a linebacker one. But all that started kind of really changing around 2016, 17, 18, about time I really started getting into writing about it, because they turned around and the offense or the defensive players, they get penalized in NFL now for if you touch a guy. You know, there's about the time they started implementing those new rules where you don't keep your hands off of him, don't be mugging his ass, all that BS, because they wanted higher scoring games. That draws crowds. You know, I remember the 80s. Do you, brother, when it was like 3-10 and you had a good game, right?
And you know, back then you'd see a lot of games 4-3 defenses, 3-4 defense. You notice the shift. Real NFL, they're playing a lot of nickel now. They're playing a lot of cover
a lot more defensive backs. I mean, the 3 safety sets started coming with like the Patriots around 2016, 17, and it just escalated. Just more teams kept doing it. And I mean, it's a passing game to begin with. That's what they turned it into, was a passing game by saying, no, don't touch that wide receiver. We're just going to give it to you anyway. So that I think it turned that whole situation where we see the nickel packages and the 3 safety sets or the 5 DB sets, whatever. Yeah, it's all because of the passing game.
DL used to be like uncorking a genie in a bottle, like you didn't know. Now DL is good and plenty. DL is good and plenty because they're bringing down a third safety and they're replacing the third linebacker on the field. So I'd say linebackers even rarer more than ever. To find a 100% snap guy, you might have 1, maybe 2 on a team. You're getting more safeties in play, and you're getting a lot more play on defensive linemen. So we're seeing a lot of these guys. These guys are kind of interesting. This is my list. I'm going to read them to you. Tell me what you think. You got any thoughts? Obviously, the top 3, you can reverse them in any order. So I'm just going to read you some stats here. The first guy this week for me is TJ Watt. And that's any given week. Usually these guys are my big time guys here. And Gary, I know you've heard my show before. I look for certain metrics on these players. I look for 60% snap count or greater. I look for tackle sack heavy guys. If I can't get that, well, then maybe I'll get some sack or maybe I'll chase some tackle. But for TJ Watt, he does it all for you. He's got 21 tackles on the season. Okay, it's tied for 30th. He's got 6 assists. That's tied for 44th. But this is where he makes his bread and butter. 14 sacks. That's tied for first right now. Right. And 3 forced fumbles, tied for 5th. He's got a win-pass rate of 20%. And then also here, if you want to go off the PFF metrics, he's got a 21.4 overall grade. The guy's an animal any given week. Yeah. He's got a good enough matchup. I got him number 1. My number 2, I got Parsons this week. I almost put Crosby there, but there's a little bit. I'm hesitant because I don't know what the deal is with that injury. I don't know if you're paying attention to that, but he did something to his shoulder.
Yeah. I had looked into it a little bit. I wasn't, man, he's fluctuated a little bit. He makes me nervous for that reason, somewhat, but they are playing at home against Seattle. So,
right.
Go ahead.
Parsons got a 36% win rate. He's double teamed 33% of the time. Just like Watt, he gets you with tackles, but where his money is, he's got 13 sacks. He's tied for fifth, you know?
Yep.
So I would go Watt, Parsons, and if I have to, I got to check on the situation, but Myles Garrett at 3, again, checking the injury report, 28% win rate. That's second in the league, even though he's double teamed 33% of the time. You know, allegedly he only has one shoulder now, right? But he's got 14 solo tackles, 54th. Assists, he's got 5, that's 53rd. Sacks is where he makes his money, just like Watt, tied for first. So if I'm chasing sacks here, if I'm chasing the dream, I'm going after one of those 3 as one of my top players. Any rebuttals, any thoughts on those guys?
Oh, no, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong going there.
I get a little spicy at my 4. I get a little spicy, but I'll try to justify it. Do you see my screen, Gary?
Yeah, I do.
This is just a generic matrix here of sacks. You know, teams that are just giving up sacks allowed in the league. Anything jump out to you?
No, that's how I would rank them. So I mean, other than those, oh gosh, you gotta love that top 3. They've been there all freaking year.
Thank
too,
you,
man.
Thank you, amen. Yeah, it's kind of when you look at the top 3, these teams give up sacks all day long. You got the Giants; they bleed sacks. You know, then you got the Sam Howell's the most sacked quarterback. Commanders right behind him. The Jets. I don't know if you read up on this yet, but the Jets are historically bad. They're one of the worst offenses last 20 years.
Oh yeah. So, I use them, productions allowed to each position in my start sits, man. And the Jets have been up there. Atlanta's been up there for a long time.
And I was like, I was looking at that, and it's the same suspects for pressures, give or take. The Chiefs are on there too, but Mahomes is a magician. He gets out of it.
Right.
But I was thinking about these teams that give up sacks, and I was like, you know what? That may not be just a defensive lineman thing. Maybe they're coming off the edge. Maybe they're whatever. So I kind of pulled the stats like you just said. Couple new people show up in here for us. The Atlanta Falcons are one of the worst teams against the defensive end. Just handle them. Followed by the Jets, followed by the Giants, followed by the Bears, followed by the Commanders again, the Lions, and the Browns are on there. So I'm kind of mindful of those 6 or 7 teams. Jets,
Scroll
Giants,
up a little bit.
Oh, okay. Please. Hold on a second.
I see it starts with 2.
You see what?
Oh, never mind. One's above it. I apologize. It was a progressive mode. It's in black at the very top. My bad.
Yeah, that's the Falcons. I had it kind of bold.
My bad.
But yeah, I just did the top 7-ish because I'm mindful of these teams that just bleed sacks. Especially when I'm doing this bottom tier, I'm kind of looking at teams that may have a connection to that.
Atlanta Falcons has actually just been like the New York Jets. They've been historically for like the last 4 or 5 years. They, for some reason, I don't know, matchup wise or whatever, but I've been tracking this at the beginning, and it was like the first 6 to 7 games, they actually didn't allow a lot. They actually didn't have that problems. So to see them all of a sudden pop back up within the last 5 to 6 weeks again. And because that's usually how I judge it, is what teams have been doing for the last 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how many buys are in there, or if there's any buys when it comes to determining because it doesn't really do me. You usually don't have the same team that you had back in week 4.
For my number 4, I actually have Nick Bosa. When you look at his metrics this year, you're probably like, meh. The stats, you kind of feel like they're disappointing a little bit. Let me just give you a little sample. Solo tackles, 16, tied for 44th. Assist, 5, that's 53rd. Sacks, he's got 11, it's tied for 10th. Now, keep in mind the top guys aren't that far behind him, but he's only 10th. Forced fumble, he's tied for 22nd. So he's not beating anybody on these advanced numbers, what have you. However, when you pull his numbers up, he's got 21% pass, 21% win pass rate, 26% of the time he's double teamed. So let me just say it again: 21% of the time he wins his matchup, but then he gets double teamed more than 1/4 of the time. The guy's an animal. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
The reason I put him at 4, even though it's a bit of a gamble stat-wise, if you're playing Nick Bosa, you're playing him like a lottery ticket. He's a scratch-off. I mean, look at him. Look what he did week 3 against the Giants. Look what he did week 5 against the Cowboys. Where else are we at here? Week 10 against the Jaguars, 1.5 sec. Tampa Bay, 1.5 sec. So this guy makes his money, off weeks, what have you. But when he does, he blows up. He's like a volcano waiting to explode. And he's a better player than the stats are telling us. You know what I did, Gary? I actually pulled can you see my screen? I pulled the data, and I looked up quarterback hits on the season.
I don't see that one. I still see Bosa.
I'm gonna pull it up for you. So yeah, I pulled up the fantasy data on who leads the league in quarterback hits. This year and last year, it was Nick Bosa. This year and last year alone. So what does that tell me? Well, they're double team him every shot. He still gets around and gets the hit. He may not be just making the tackle. So give or take on Bosa, give or take, eventually he's going to get there. He's going to get home. And we kind of predicted that with him in week 4 when he played not week 4. What week was? Oh, when he played the Jaguars. I forget what week that was, but we kind of predicted it. This week is an easier matchup than people think. He's playing the Eagles. The Eagles love to hold on to the football. They love to hold on to the football. You got Jalen Hurts back there who thinks he's a running back sometimes, right? The Eagles aren't that far behind on these metrics. He can eat. So Nick Bosa.
The 49ers, it's the 49ers, they're just they're number 1 defense. So you got Hargraves assigned before him. He's feasting. Even Armstead, the old throwback. I mean, Armstead's been in there and had been a core player for the 49ers for about 5 or 6 years. And he's never had but a few stretches where he's been really on the defensive end part or producing an IDP. And he's gotten this opportunity. As soon as they added Chase Young, I started hollering at people, hey, start watching Armstead in deep D-Gen leagues because this guy's going to get a boost just for the simple fact. You got Randy Gregory, you got Chase Young, got Hargrave, Armstead, which was a former first rounder, and Bosa. So there's a lot of mouths to feed. But you're right. Against Philadelphia, man, I mean, Philadelphia's been one of the top 10 allowing production off the edge for the last 6 weeks, maybe I know they've been top 12 probably for the last 8 weeks. I've been using it. A lot of these guys, I mean, combined tackles count 2 for DLs, DEs.
Yeah, right. And like I said, there's a lot of mouths to feed there, and you're going to have those weeks with guys like that. It's just going to happen. Another guy in that same
Bosa's a beast. You can't set Bosa. Bosa's a must start. Matchup proof, dude. You just set him and forget him.
I think for our next player, number 5, Josh Allen's the same animal, same element. He may be in a smaller market. Some people may or may not know him or play him. Sit him either. He delivered an animal game against the Texans. Hold on a second. Let me pull that up for you. So
I see a sleeper.
Yeah. So he went off. He went to he had 5 tackles, 2.5 sacks against the Texans, and he would have got more. He kept getting there. The thing about Josh Allen, he gets the Bengals this week, who have a history of getting their quarterback smashed. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I'll take him there. I'll put him at 5 comfortably. Another thing too with my list, some people, especially as we get deeper on this thing, we got a lot of bye weeks this week. So to put Josh Allen, up this high, I'm very much okay with that, especially the week he just had. So sign me up for some Josh Allen at 5, and I got Aiden Hutchinson at 6.
Love it.
Aiden Hutchinson. Now here's a fun fact for you. I kind of did this a couple episodes ago. No NFL edge player faced more double teams last year in his rookie year than Aiden Hutchinson did. He was the most double-teamed player, period. Yep. And this year, his pass rush, if you watch game, it's been kind of inconsistent. It's been kind of up and down because they're kind of just letting him go after the quarterback. But believe it or not, he has a top 10 PFF grade, 90.2. He has over 30 pressures this year. You know how Bosa gets the QB hits? This guy gets the pressures. He's getting in there. He's getting in there pretty darn quick. Any given game, every other game. He doesn't have necessarily the monster stats, but he's catching up to these other guys. He's got 5 sacks on the season. That's 39. Forced fumbles 2, tied for 6th. 21 solo tackles, tied for 30th. Assist 53. You know, a guy like him, especially on a week like this with everybody in a bye, like I just said, give me him, start your studs, set it and forget it kind of mentality. You know, the matchups there with the Saints are middle of the pack. They give up pressures too. So, you know, I got him at 6. Any thoughts on Hutchinson?
I mean, to me, he's another one of those ones, unless you're getting ready to replace him in the lineup with Nick Bosa, or, you know, maybe you're going to go with TJ Watt, which I love, man. TJ Watt's a beast, right? At least he's staying healthy this year and getting Cameron Hayward back, man. Oh, how about that 38-year-old? Well, he might be 48. I don't know, but I know he's up there in age. He's a beast. So I have no arguments, man. I mean, I looked at these a little bit earlier or got a shot of them, and I mean, they're all really solid. Start 6.
You know, usually the top 12 every week, they're kind of in some order. Just where you want to put them, where the matchup is, what have you. At least that's how it's been so far.
I got to admit, though, man, can you scroll down a little more because I'm a little butthurt?
Scroll down. Okay, hold on.
Just a couple more.
Okay, hold on.
Where you have?
What you got?
Granderson. I was looking for Granderson 16. I love him for the next 3 weeks, man. It's going to be a little bit tougher. It's going to be a little bit tougher against Detroit, but he should still do what he's been doing. And you know, this guy's averaging like 5 combined tackles for a defensive end. So be it that he, you know, kind of chilled out. You're only getting 5.5 or sacks out of him so far. But believe it or not, he's only been blitzed once. And they just brought in they lost Jason Pierre-Paul. They lost him to Miami, so we'll scratch that. But the dude's been playing 90% of the snaps too. So I like this, but it's the 2 matchups after this, man. I need my waiver wire open. I think it was Carolina, the Giants, maybe, right? And so the production is going to be there again. But I might like Carl Granderson a little bit more than some of those guys on the bottom of that list, but other than that, man, I love that Krista Wilkinson's at 15. That is for a defensive tackle, man. That's a great call against Washington.
Yeah, we got a great bubble. I would say the top 7 or 8 are pretty much, you know, when we're talking about rankings go, they're pretty much the same run of the mill. But once we start getting down there, it gets a little interesting.
Yep.
My 7 is Brian Burns. He's actually got the 3rd highest win rate in the league. 27% of the time he gets there, 50% double teamed. He's got 7 sacks, tied for 22nd, 19th, tied for 35th, 1 forced fumble, tied for 22nd. But you know what's funny about Burns to me, and I just want to show you this. Say what you will. I'm just pulling his stats for the audience at home. These are his stats, okay? Mm-hmm. I call him an eeny, miny, mo player. He's hot one week, he's off the neck. He's eeny, miny, mo. Look at this guy. Week 1, 2 sacks. Week 2, 0. Week 3, 1 sack. Week 4, 0. Week 5, 1. Eeny, miny, mo. Week 6, nothing.
It's kind of called matchup dependent, man.
And you know, I've been saying this for weeks. He did it again. 9-0.
Yeah.
11 bye week 0-1. Yeah, he's matchup dependent, and he's got Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's really good on the tackles, not so much on the guard. So he's middle of the pack this week. I don't have a lot more to say. Just you got to stud, you got to start him. You know, so that's where
things
I got
him. Things kind of went left for Burns and everybody from the get-go. Once they started getting injuries across the board and they lost Yadis, Modis, or whatever, which he might be coming back, he was actually doing a pretty good the first few games. But as soon as that broke and then Louvie got hurt and then who was the other one? Shaq Thomas went down at first. It just escalated all through the secondary. Von Bell, Woods, Chin. How about Chin, man? Burn the chin down, right? Damn.
I know, right? Like what happened there?
Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted,
laughing.
man.
I'm terrible with names as well. Gross Matos. I don't even know how to say these names.
Yeah,
A lot of times I avoid it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
modest. I think I hit it, dude. I think I might have got it.
So this one might be a little bit too high. I'm kind of feeling the water. The thing that sucks about doing rankings so early in the week, we just don't know. We don't know. We got to come back to it. But I just look at the historical data of Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald at 7 sounds good to me. He's got a 20% win rate. 62% is double teamed. Solo tackles 24. That's tied for 17th. Assists 14, tied for 4th. Sacks, he's got 4, tied for 51st. But here's my problem, and I'll let you look at and be a judge of it. Can you see my screen? I went to fantasydata.com. Mm-hmm. Okay, the thing, if you look at Donald the last couple weeks, and I really hope I'm wrong about this because the matchup's sweet enough, but if you look at his last couple weeks, it looks like he's cooling off a bit. Week 11, Seattle. Okay, he got a tackle for loss, but just one solo. Week 12, he got he rolled a nut, but he did get a couple quarterback hits. I'm just a little worried. I'm going to give him this week because the matchup's just too sweet. If you look at his matchup this week, it's against Cleveland. Cleveland's got a notoriously bad offensive
top
line,
5,
and they got
top 5 matchup, man.
And they got an inexperienced quarterback. It's a top matchup. If he doesn't get it for me this week, I may move him down a little bit. But I'm not going to lie, him and Burns in the middle there, I'm a little bit hesitant. So I've
never in my life seen Aaron Donald suck more than 1 week, man. Everybody freaking flopped. He's having, he's freaking wore out considering the shape of this whole team, and considering who come in this year: Ernest Jones, Donald, Hoyt. Everybody else was a big ass, or Jordan Fuller, and everybody else was a big ass question. We didn't even know what the starting lineup was going to look like until we got into the preseason.
These nose tackles that are beasts. He win pass rate of 20%. He's double teamed 62% of the time. I mean, you can chalk some of that up to the scheme,
He'll be busy against Cleveland. He should be perfectly fine.
You know who else? The next guy is also another defensive tackle, and it's Buckner, and he's got a win pass rate of 18%. And it's funny because he gets double teamed 67% of the time. So here you got Donald getting double teamed 60-some% of the time, and this guy's getting double teamed 60%. I guess the NFL thinks that Buckner is more of a threat than Donald. So he gets double teamed.
He's been a beast this year.
He does. And he's got 6 sacks on the season. That's 6. Yeah. One thing I do, Gary, is I do these by position. So when I say he's 6th by the defensive tackle. It just kind of, when I do the stats by position, it kind of puts it in context. Like if I say, the guy got 47 tackles, you're like, whoop-de-damn-do. But if you got 47 tackles as a cornerback, it just kind of pops a little bit for you.
Yeah. That's what I like about Granderson with that, man. I mean, that's why you got, you nailed it right there. I mean, the guy's getting combined tackles for defensive. Anything after that's a bonus. And he's usually overachieving depending on the matchups. You know what I mean? I've not seen him fail anything. People are just kind of letting him slide down the rung a little bit because he's not stacking the sacks. Well, give me those combined tackles. That's what you said you were basing most of your stuff on. Just for the simple fact is that's going to be there.
It's going to be there. And then he stops the run on his way to the tackle. The Saints run a cover 5, which for my audience at home that plays a lot of Madden, you see the cover 1, the cover 2, the cover 3, the cover 4, the cover 6. People don't really know what cover 5 is too much anymore. That's old school talk. That's a cover 2 man. So if you want to go ahead and look at a cover 2 man on your Madden controller, that's what cover 5 is. Basically, they sit in that, like you mentioned earlier, as you alluded to, 3 safeties. They bring them down. The slot guy gets a lot of tackles. The defensive ends make a lot of tackles. That's kind of why you see the Warners and the Davises. They're out there. They're in position, but they're probably getting vampired for a couple hits or two. Tackles a week. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, this New Orleans defense as a whole stayed healthier than they have in the last couple of years as well. And they gave up on Marcus Davenport finally and looked at Granderson because he was coming on towards the end of last year. I've been riding this pony, brother, for a while. I love Granderson. I called it, man. During the expo, I had maybe I had a little too much, but I said karaoke this, and I was like, he's going to be a top 12 defensive line play by the end of the season. And I don't know about your formats, but he's hanging out about 8 in mine. So,
back to Buckner, I just want to revisit something. He's got a matchup against the Titans this week, right?
It's beautiful.
And for the audience on Spotify that can't see my screen, I pulled up my I go to StatMuse. It gives me cheap stats, and I put in sacks allowed. So I have a little chart from worst to best as far as who gives it the most sacks. When you look at this chart, there's a couple teams that pop, but if you look at the 4th worst team in the league, Buckner's going up against the Titans. Okay. The Titans have gave up 36 sacks this year. Okay. What a lot of people don't realize, because that's what I kind of do. I kind of think about it and I'm looking at the matchup. A lot of people don't realize the Titans rebuilt their whole entire offensive line in the offseason. But it may actually be worse than what they started off with.
Grover Stewart's going to be back, though, man. Eventually, I think he's got like was it week 14? Maybe he can come back.
I think so. I was looking at that too. I think 13 or 14, but yeah.
If he pees clean, yeah.
For right now, though, the Titans are a sweet matchup. And when you look at that screen, when you see that 36 light blue Titans, it's overlooked because why? The people to his left are historically bad. I said it earlier, the Jets have a offense that is decades statistically historically bad. We know about Sam Howell and the Commanders. We know about the Giants. But a lot of people aren't teeing off on the Titans like they should. Whenever I see a lineman playing the Titans, sign me up for that. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I want some of that.
I hear you.
So
what I like? I like about those too is that they offer the same on the defensive side of the ball. They usually have fairly good plays. You know what I mean with against whoever they're playing. With Jeffrey Simmons and such, and Autry's been kicking ass. There's another defensive tackle. Oh my God, is Autry? Yeah, there's another defensive tackle that's been kicking it, right?
Yep. The next guy on my list is Hassan Reddick. Now, if you're playing Hassan Reddick,
you're showing Aaron Donald stuff.
Oh, am I? Okay, let me. Thanks for teeing me in.
No
Sometimes I do that.
No problem.
So I brought up Hassan Reddick at 10.
Mm-hmm.
Good. When I think of Hassan Reddick, okay, you're not playing him. You're not playing him for the tackles, are you? What has he got? He's got 14 tackles on the season, 54th. Not playing him for the assists either. He's got 4 assists, tied for 70th. You're playing him for that potential sack, which he's got 10 on the year. That's 13th. He's got 1 forced fumble. Hassan Reddick's like a Volkswagen, man. He's not a Corvette. He's not a sports car. He's a Volkswagen. You put some gas in it, it'll get you home. It'll get you to work. Nothing glamorous here. He'll have his weeks for you, but nothing special. But he is. I guess he's the King. No, Kmart's a bad example. What's another store? You know what I'm going to?
Target.
He's what?
I don't know. I was going to say Target, but I don't know. That might be.
These guys are Ferraris up here, but he's probably the Camaro, the Chevelle.
There you go.
He's the guy on the list, just slightly behind everyone else. But those top 10 guys, those are usually your DL1s any given week. So that's why I kind of put him where I put him. That's how I kind of justify it. He's got San Francisco, which when we looked at the list, San Francisco's middle of the pack with defensive ends. You can get him. He can get after it. I just don't know.
It depends what San Fran you get. And this is the one game I'm not going to miss this week. It's one way or the other. I'm going to watch this game. You know what I mean? So it's a good call. I like him at 10.
And that's gonna be a bloodbath. Now here's one. This is where I get a little bit, I guess froggy. I put Sam Hubbard number 11. And honestly, right at 15, or actually 14, I got Trey Hendrickson. I put both Bengals in here because my reasoning is 1 or 2 of those guys is going to go after. They're going to go after the Jacksonville Jaguars, who just bleed pressures. Let me just do those guys together, just to give you context. Like Batman and Robin. Hubbard is a tackle guy. Every once in a while, he'll get you a sack. Hendrickson's a sack guy. Every once in a while, he'll get you a tackle. So they complement each other well. It's like peanut butter and jelly, Hubbard's got 24 tackles. That's 17th on the season. He's got assists, 14th. That's tied for 4th. He's only got a couple sacks. He's got 4. He's tied for 15th. So what do we have here? We got a guy who kind of sort of gets after it. He's usually end of tier 1, beginning of tier 2 kind of territory for me. And Hendrickson in this kind of format doesn't necessarily get the love he deserves. Hendrickson is actually having one of these years that if you're looking at the metrics and you're looking at all the stuff on him, he's actually been doing pretty darn well here. He's got 15 solo tackles. That's 48th. You don't really hear about him when you're talking about tackles. Like I said, he's got 12 sacks. That's tied for 7th. Forced fumbles, 2, tied for 6th. So, I don't know if you see my method here, Gary, but I'm firing up both Bengals this week just on that. But he's in the midst of a career. Mm-hmm. In terms of PFF, 92-point mark right now as far as pure pass rushing goes. So I don't think anybody else is up there with him besides
Hubbard is just like Granderson. Another thing that I loved about Hubbard, and I've always been solid with him. He's having a terrific year. Again, looking at his numbers, his combined tackles, I mean, he's averaging about 5.5 every week that he's played. He did miss a couple of weeks, and he had a flop with the Bills. I think it might have been when he got hurt. So, and plus you're also talking about 5 tackles for loss, which they can help out a little bit. I love Hubbard too. Again, give me those combined tackles. Give me that floor. Give me that high floor. That's what that is. Because sacks, unless you're top 5, top 6, those are so unpredictable.
My next guy is, Alex Highsmith, and I touched on that last episode. He's very streaky, hit or miss. He's got the Cardinals. I'm going to move on to Bradley
Chubb up.
Yeah, I'm going to move on to Bradley Chubb because that's kind of where I want to sink my teeth into. Bradley Chubb is where do I begin with this? If you look, Gary, if you look at Bradley, if you look at beginning of his season, didn't start off very well if you look at it. But look at the last, I'm going to say from week 6 on, he's got 6 tackles a sack. Week 7, 7-2. Week 8, 3-1. Week 9, 3-1. 5 sacks against the Raiders. And then the Jets, he's got 2. So basically the tweet that I pulled up for the audience that can't see my screen, Bradley Chubb has a quarterback hit in 9 of Miami's last 11 games, and he has 5 sacks since week 6. Okay. Bradley Chubb has been all over it the last couple weeks. And I kind of did my homework on this because I was trying to figure him out a little bit. I was trying to size this up. And I'm like, what the hell? What happened? What changed? And, I remember he played with Vic Fangio with the Broncos. That's when he had his all-pro seasons. But, I was trying to kind of make a correlation to what's.
I think the outlier here is that after he joined them last year in Miami by being traded by Denver, the first thing I said was that helps Jalen Phillips way more than it helps Bradley Chubb. And that's exactly the case for the rest of last year, and looked like it at the beginning of this year. But whatever the frick he's pulling off, I'm not a Bradley Chubb fan. You know why? It's because I was the one that was kind of disappointed in his first few years. You know what I mean? I believe it was. I wasn't. It wasn't for me. So I've never been a huge fan. And then Denver struggled a little bit. He's had injury problems too. But you've got to give him kudos. Where are you at now going in playing Washington then?
That's what I'm thinking about. And you know what else too, Gary? I was looking at, you see the rise around week 6, week 7, week 8. That's right. I want to say week 8 is when the secondary of the Dolphins all got healthy all at the same time. Nice. So I bet you the secondary being there helped out the defense line. And what I did is I did my homework here. I went down a rabbit hole.
Better coverage.
I was looking at the scoring. Okay. Week 1, the Dolphins played the Falcons. I'm sorry, that was preseason. Let me forget I said that. Okay. So week 1, they played the Jaguars. They won 31-18. Okay. Week 2, they played the Chargers 34-36. So they gave up some secondary points, right? The next week, they won the Patriots 24-17. Patriots are historically bad. So if they're getting 17 points, something's wrong there, at least in my head. Then the next week, they played the Broncos when they put up 70 points historically. Yep. They still gave up 20. Then the Bills, they gave up 20-48. Then what happened? Everybody got healthy. What happens next? 31-16 to the Giants. 42-21 to the Panthers. Starts tightening up in here. Eagles 31-17. 31-17 Patriots. Chiefs 21-14. Raiders 20-13. And then finally last week 34-13. So I think with the pass coverage got better, the scoring went down and it helped the pass rush. That's my kind of conspiracy theory here. But I'm taking him.
I'm not a cornerback guy, right? So I can't tell you for 100% sure, but I know they were getting healthy, or they did get healthy about the time, at least within the safety region. So what makes sense is, hey, if your cornerbacks are healthy and capable of covering, you're giving your defensive line a little bit more time to get after the fucking ball. Excuse my language.
Coverage sex. My last guy on this list here. And just to read to the audience at home, this is who I got on my defensive lineman rankings. I got 1, I got TJ Watt. 2, I got Parsons. 3, I got Myles Garrett. 4, I got Nick Bosa. 5, Josh Allen. 6,
you still got Bradley Chubb up.
7, I got Brian Burns. 8, Aaron Donald. 9, Buckner. 10, Hassan Riddick, 11, Hubbard, 12, Alex Highsmith, 13, Bradley Chubb, 14, Trey Hendrickson. We're going to talk about Christian Wilkins here in a second. And then on my bubble, this is an amazing bubble. This is an amazing problem to have on any team. 16, Granderson, 17, Mack, 18, Rashad Gary, 19, Hayward, 20, Chris Jones. You can't go wrong with any of those guys on this list.
I can see how you're in that top 2? What are you, Fantasy Pros number 2 or 1, man?
No. I'm third on this. I didn't have that great of a week, Gary, this week. Thanksgiving, that turkey messed me up.
Darn. Yeah, darn, Mr. Top 3. Yeah, okay. God, you see me? I'm sweating for you, brother.
There were three games going on early, and then we had the Friday. You don't know how hard it is to put those rankings together all at once, but I'm 1 point behind. I'm 1 point behind Matt DeLima on the Fantasy Game Day for second. So that's where my stats are. But yeah, I'm a little embarrassed. I kind of had too much turkey that weekend.
Hey, that's how it rolls, man, and that's how holiday games go to begin with.
So you notice my list. We had a lot of guys that were sack heavy. Then we had a lot of guys that were tackle heavy. Yep. Christian Wilkins, he's like the Bizarro man. I don't know if you remember Super Friends or Justice League America.
Dude. Oh yeah. Preaching to the choir. Justice League.
Yeah. Do you see my lunchbox in the background? My superpower friends?
Yeah, I see it.
That's old school. I had a little thermos as a kid. But anyway, we're talking Super Friends here, and we're talking about Bizarro man, right? Christian Wilkins is Bizarro man to anyone's Superman. We're talking about all these tackle heavy guys. Let's talk about the ultimate tackle heavy guy. Every once in a while, he'll pop a sack, and when he pops a sack, he's a big time player, right? But he stays in that realm. He's the anti-Bizarro man, and I'm showing you this. I'm showing you a comic. I'm showing you a lunchbox. I want to give you the stats on this guy. I want to give you the history because I don't want anybody to accuse you from being from Krypton. Okay. All right. So Solo Tax 25. He's got 25 season. That's tied for 18. That's for defensive tackle. He's got assists 9. That's another tied for 23rd. Sacks. He's got 7 right now. Holy smokes! To have a 7-sack guy tied for 3rd this late on the list, you can't go wrong. So we're talking about guys that do either one. He does them both, and he's got a run defense grade according to PFF 72.8. I got him a little low, I think. But, 15th, Christian Wilkins. And, one thing about Sam Howell, we might as well change his name to Sack Howell, right? He loves to go down, and this is a game that he could exceed. So, maybe a little controversial. I'm not sure, but I have 2 guys.
So, no, I actually like it a lot. And I was just going to mention because I wanted to double check. So, last year, Wilkinson had 59 tackles and 39 assists. So, there was like 90-some combined for a defensive tackle. He had a little bit of a slow start because he was a little spotty here or there. But as you can see, as long as everybody came around with Jalen Phillips, they're all producing. And I don't think they're going to miss a big beat with Jalen Phillips going on IR today because Andrew Van Sickle, I can't remember his name. I think
Ben
he's going to get
Ginkel,
the opportunity. Yeah. He's not going to be Jalen Phillips, but he was actually producing and playing that other edge rusher role pretty well. And now they got JPP that they just sniped off the practice squad from the Saints.
I did a waivers article. Ogba produced, and there's a lot of
his snaps are probably going to go up.
The jury's out on who's going to replace, because Ginkel earlier in the season replaced Phillips well and did well. But if you look at the last game, Ginkel was playing middle linebacker. That's a problem. On Vic Fangio's defense, they run the Fangio 5. It's like it's weird if you look at it, but basically in layman's terms, or like Madden terms, whatever you want to say, all the secondary guys, they all go back in coverage, so it looks like they're playing deep, but then they come up to make the tackle. So in order for that to work, for everybody to gel, you got to have a middle linebacker, which is the weakness right now, the Dolphins. So don't be surprised if Ginkel pops back in as middle linebacker and Ogba or one of these other guys gets in there, Yeah.
They should all get some good numbers.
I love talking defensive linemen. I love talking linebackers. I'm not a big fan of defensive backs, if you can't tell by the tone of my voice. They're just so volatile each year. They really are.
That's why. Yeah, I'm just safeties only, man. I don't, I'm notorious. I don't do any corners. I don't do dirty O, and I don't do corners.
I got a couple at the end of the list, and I'll justify it. But
usually, you got to when you're on Fantasy Pros, man. You got to rank them with shit.
Exactly.
Yeah. You got to do that.
But my metrics with defensive backs, it's so volatile. We actually did the numbers a couple weeks ago. There was only one defensive back that repeated as the top defensive back back-to-back years, and that was Budda Baker, 2019. And I don't think he's going to do it this year. If you look at it, he's kind of hard to gauge himself. So the metrics I kind of use for this category, I'm trying to look for clean tackles because I know I can gauge that. I know I can get clean solo tackles out of these guys. I know I can. My first three, I put them all together. I'm looking at 90, 100% snap guys. If I'm not getting that, I'm not putting them in here. I'm not. So, my list, and I'll let you look here. Let me pull up it on the screen. I got Derwin James number 1, Antoine Winfield number 2, Cam Curl number 3. That order of some sort is everybody's order at one point or another, because that's what they do. They sit there, they make the guy makes the catch, they make the tackle. Sign me up for any one of those three guys. Any thoughts on those guys?
No, it looks solid. Other than the mess in Tampa Bay, they are actually flip-flopped at free safety again. Who played that? You got to avoid that. But I do love with Cameron Curl's new buddy, Percy Butler, in some deep degen, deeper leagues, man. He's actually been pulling off some DB2 type numbers. And as soon as they've, I started preaching that a little bit, keep an eye on them for late pickup for because Chase Young and Montez Sweat, as soon as they left, there goes your pass rush. So your free safety gets busy.
So here's what I did for 4 and 5. I put Byard there, and I put his twin brother on the other side of the Eagles. I put Reed Blankenship.
I'm surprised you even put the 5 between them. In tier
weeks ago. The Eagles are still in playing Byard the same way he was as a Titan. And since the bye week, he's produced 20 points and 16.5 points. He's got 22 tackles and 19 the last 2 games. I got him DD4 this week. The last game against the Bills, he was the leading tackler. And my final point with Byard, and this is probably the biggest one, the linebacker of the Eagles, they're having problems there, aren't they? They're having troubles at linebacker. So, that's always great for IDP safeties when they don't know what the heck's going on with the linebacker course. Let the safeties go in there and eat a little bit,
Yeah, they're all the way down to who was it? Malik Walker? No, that was Pittsburgh. Who are they down to? Because Cunningham, he's hurt. So, they could be down to Christian Ellis if Cunningham's out. Yeah, it's not always a pretty situation.
Same thing with Byard. Byard's nice story, too. When you look at Byard's Blankenship, when you look at him, week 8, 100%, week 9, 100%. Week 11, 100%, week 12, 100%. Like all of these numbers here, he doesn't go under 7, 8 tackles. That's his baseline.
Could you imagine Bear when they called him? Could you imagine Bear when they called him and said, "Hey, you've been traded to Eagles"? He'd be, "Oh man, I'm gonna miss you," guy hanging up the phone, going, "Honey, you ain't gonna believe this." We're going to
That's
go
funny.
to Contender.
You know, Jeff Fisher, there's an article, I can't remember where I read it, but Jeff Fisher was talking about on the Titans, it was like Byard had to like put everybody in place and tell all these young guys where to go. Now you're on the Eagles, the Super Bowl team anyway. You know, you could probably take naps in the backfield. They're not going to give a care, you know? So,
yeah. That's nice that they've both been able to produce because it was questionable whether when he joined them that Blankenship could keep it up.
Yeah,
those dudes have been just like six-pack pistols. They're just always getting it.
Reed Blankenship was the story before Byard came to town. I mean, he's right behind him, 11 tackles, 8 of which were solos. It's such a nice story with him. He was an undrafted free agent, to be in one of the best defenders on the team. And I generally have him as a top 9-10 play, which I think that's probably the secret to the sauce right there, Gary. A lot of people don't really know who this guy is. Not a lot of people aren't studying the numbers. But, maybe not the most athleticism player, whatever. But he hits all the criteria that I want.
Matter.
Right. Exactly. Availability.
IDP is a different beast.
Availability is better than what's the expression? I lost my train of thought. Availability is your best ability, Yeah. So
he's done really well this year. Yeah, and I know what you mean too. His rostered percentage is not as high as you would think it would be for considering how many points he's averaging.
My goodness, you hit it on the head. I play in this King of IDP league off of Facebook, and it's supposed to be like all the major experts. He went undrafted, and I'm like, what the heck? And I think I had him in my waivers article for like the first 3-4 weeks. Like it's just now lately he's going outside of that, 30-40% roster. So, it's like I had to leave him off because eventually people are going to catch up, and we're already, week 13,
Yeah. Well, we're rolling along here. I'm just going to mention I love that Julian Blackman at 12 too, because I kind of think of Blankenship and Blackman at the same time, considering what's going on. But I'm going to let you roll, brother.
To be honest, the top of this list, I never get these players because you got to get them high, right? I usually stack up defensive. The bottom of this list is where I live. I live in that zone. On that note, I'm going to put these guys together. After Blankenship, I got 6. I got Dax Hill, and I got 7. I got Javon Holland. Okay, 6 and 7, and how about this? 6, I got Dax Hill. 7, I got Budda Baker. 8, I got Holland. 9, I got Jesse Bates. Now, all 4 of those guys have something in common. Let's do Hill and Budda together. Okay, Hill and Budda. They're athletes. They're next gen stats. They're lab specialists. If you got them, you play them. They're hitting everything. They both are playing these young quarterback matchups this week. And an experienced top player is going to exploit that. So I can't fault you there. With Jesse Bates and Holland, I did this a couple episodes back, especially Jesse Bates. He gets all his points playing deep back free. He gets a lot of interceptions, forced fumbles. You've seen them both did that this week. Holland against the Jets went 99 yards. Jesse Bates went against the Saints for touchdowns. I can't gauge that. I cannot gauge that as an analyst, as a ranker. Yeah, you're in my whatever. That's great, but I can't rely on that week to week because they're going to have cold weeks too. So give me the guys at the bottom of this list that I know are going to get me tackles. It's kind of my strategy. It's kind of how my brain works anyway.
Oh yeah.
Of course, he's put up some stinkers, and I've gotten some fan mail on this guy, and rightfully so. But when you look at him, when you actually study Duggar and even Blankenship and some of the rest of these guys on this list, when you actually take a moment to look at them, they're not bad players. So let me just pull the stat here. This was written a while ago. I just finally now I'm starting to get around to some of these mailbag questions. But this was written in regards to, let me pull it up for you here. Oh, hold on. I just had it. Sorry. So this was a guy, Mitch Hagel. He's always in the chat. And his question or kind of statement, can you see my screen, Gary?
Yes.
Yeah, he's talking about Duggar being a very talented player. And a lot of time, the problem with Duggar is he plays on the Patriots, and they've just been bad all around. defensively, statistically, that's probably one of the worst defenses they've had in a while. And he's talking in the chat here about how easy it is to throw everywhere else. Okay, I counter you, and thank you for the comment, Mitch. Thank you. We get better as an audience with comments like this. But the thing I counter with this week, they got a matchup against the Chargers. Okay, what does Herbert do? He's going to throw the ball all around the field. He does not care. This man has no fear. Duggar should be back in it for some quality defensive snaps like he normally does every week. Expect some good stuff out of Duggar. The snaps each week that Delpit's pulling in at the box safety. Week 1, 20, 33, week 2, 17, week 3, 21, and it keeps going. Week 6, 39, 30, 28, 22, 19, 16. This is like another linebacker on the field. Him, and this is what I kind of do with my list, Gary. It's just kind of like my cheat code because I can't gauge interception, but I can gauge a tackle. Delpit, Blackman, you already know. Jesus, he's out there. 36, 39, 29, 32, 25. This is another linebacker. And you know what? These guys are because of the scheme. Because of the scheme, they're jumping all around the place, getting ahead. This one may get me in a little trouble this week, but where there's smoke, there's fire. Jonathan Owens has been lighting it up. And look at his numbers.
If he plays, you got to put him in there.
Have to.
Yeah. Darnell Savage might be back off of IR, but man, Rudy Ford's still beat up, and I don't know. But if Jonathan Owens, he should be playing for either one of the two.
But people give me a hard time.
He's got to be playing.
People give me a hard time. Like, why this guy and like that guy? Well, I mean, he hits my metrics. Look at all these box snaps he's pulling in. 29, 13, 24, 31. He's playing it, So I can't fault the man. He's doing everything he can in his limited time. It's the only thing is, you're right. That's Savage's job and Rudy Ford's job. So when those guys get back, he's out of a role. You know what I mean? So
you would think so. They usually go that way. Give it back to the original starter.
Just give it. Yeah, it gives it right back.
Usually.
So that 13 is Jonathan Owens, and this is what I have, guys. Derwin James 1, Antoine Winfield 2.
Different one. No.
Oh, sorry. Let's see here. So, you know what I got to do? I got to bring it on the screen. Sorry. Good catch.
We're about on an hour, man.
All right. Cameron Curl, Beyer, Blankenship, Hill, Budabaker, Holland, Bates, Duggar, Delpit, Blackman, Owens. 14, Jalen Petrie. We're going to talk about him in a second. And then for my bubble on my list, I got all corners because who knows? It's dealer's choice. Kenny Moore, Brian Branch, Devin Witherspoon. And on my bubble, I have guys like, Jalen Thompson, Justin Simmons, Amani Hooker. The thing about Petrie that I kind of wanted to hit this during this conversation, people were asking about Petrie, what's going on there? I just wanted to take time to kind of highlight that a little bit. Hey, should I lose faith in Petrie? What's going on there? The problem with Petrie, yeah, exactly. What are you expecting? I think what it is, Gary, is they were spoiled from last year. Yeah. They were definitely spoiled with what got going on with him, but there wasn't. You got three linebackers in front of him. You got three linebackers in front of them that are competent. The defense is better this year. John Macri and PFF put it out. He's 70% in coverage. So what do you expect then? There's not a lot there to actually play off of, So I put him at 14 because his stats this week were kind of promising. He got a lot of tackles for a loss. So that's why I put him as low as I did. But then again, you can't please everybody with this, No.
You can't fit everybody up in the top 12 either, just off of a whim. You've got to have a system, and apparently yours is working. And you're exactly right. Petrie didn't have Cashman in front of him, and Cashman, believe it or not, PFF just loves the shit out of him like elite loves. So, this longtime journeyman from the Jets, man, he's broke out, and Desmond Perriman is getting ready to come back from, I think, suspension too. So the only one that I can even think about trusting is Cashman for a little bit. I'm not a big Harris fan. Harris is the reason Petrie last year was killing it because he was their best linebacker.
And he missed a lot of tackles.
Sucked.
Good point.
Yeah, and he
exactly.
Sucked. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So Carmine is cooking. Thank you for that. Thank you for that comment. Any thoughts on Jalen Petrie? No, I'm not concerned because I don't really expect a whole lot out of him to begin with, and that is why, my friend, you do not take defensive backs early. You punt those jokers. Yep. Okay.
Yep.
That's all I have on defensive backs. We're going to move on to linebackers. Any rebuttals? Any questions on that?
Nope.
Moving on to linebackers. Again, we know the metrics here. We're looking for 100% guys. We're looking for dogs in the fight, and they're getting few and far between with all these injuries. Number one, I got Olakun, and he's playing the Bengals. And I got Franklin playing Tennessee. I don't think anyone out in the universe is going to argue those three. I really don't. I mean, those two, excuse me. I don't think you'll have any rebuttals with that. It's usually when we go down the list, when we see the 2s, the 3s, the 4s, that sort of thing is when we start getting people that are kind of asking the questions like, hey, where does this guy go or that guy? Bobby Wagner, as old as he is, Bobby's got, at 3 now, he's got 82 tackles on the season. That's ranked 6th. Assists, 28th, tied for 10th. Interceptions, he's tied for he doesn't have anything interceptions and forced fumbles, but still, Bobby, say what you want about old Bobby O, older guy.
He's trucking along.
He's trucking along, and I'm taking the detour here, Gary. I'm going over to IDP guys. They have this great snaps count tool. The reason I got Bobby Oki 3rd, he gets me solos. He doesn't get me assists because I get double scoring with tackles. But look at this, 100%, 100%, 100%, 89, 100%, 100%, 100%, 86, 100. He gets it every single week for me, and not just the percentage. Look at the volume the last couple of weeks, 78, 65, 61, 66, 66. If you don't have Bobby Wagner in your top couple, something's not right. Something's not right in your scoring format.
He's a beast, Iron Man.
Same thing. And now sometimes with the Jets, I got CJ Mosley this week ahead, and it's just dealer's choice. Sometimes it's Mosley, sometimes it's Quincy. Mosley's another one with 81 tackles solos on the year. That's tied for 7th this position. Assists 38, tied for 2nd. He's got an overall PFF grade of 86.3. He's going to go after it. He's going to go after it every single week. Actually, all these
pull that up.
Every single week he's going after it. I got Fred. I said this last week. He's the most refreshed player when it comes to the playoffs because they don't really need him a whole lot of times, do they? This year, the numbers are starting to show as a true LB1. 64 tackles, tied for 18th. Assists, 30th, tied for 8th. Doesn't ever get off the field now. Forced fumbles, 33, that's 2nd. And interceptions, 30 is tied for 1st. So any given week, these top 6 are money for us. The only one that doesn't have the stats is Ernest Jones because he's been injured. But who else on that team is going to make plays? Seriously. I know you're big on Michael Hoyt, but you're not big on him over Ernest Jones. Jones.
You talking about me personally? You do know that I actually wrote a breakout article about him, his rookie season.
I seen that actually because I'm like, who is this Mike? You were the first guy that was on top of him, by the way.
Yeah, I had him in my I don't rank worth of shit, but I rank every once in a while, through the off season. And I had him in my rookie rankings, man. I had him top 3 in that class, and it was an outlier at that point. I started putting that out. I love Ernest Jones. I was so pissed when they signed Bobby Wagner last year.
That's what I was trying to say. I love reading your content. Like when you put it out.
Thank you.
We don't have enough people that do that. You know what I mean? We have people that just puke rankings. They don't have the conversations anymore. Ernest Jones, 62 tackles on the year, solos. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for solo guys, high snap count. Number 7, we got Singleton. Why do we have Singleton here? Well, if you've been watching any kind of football, he's kind of replaced Josie Jewell there, hasn't he?
Yep.
He's kind of replaced him in the lineup as the top guy, and he's getting all the snaps. He's playing Houston this week, and we know they can't block worth a darn. So a lot of people don't know this either, Gary. We call Sam Howell Sack Howell. He's getting decked at a high pace. So is that rookie quarterback over there, CJ Stroud. So, I'm not saying Alex Smith's going to be a sack machine all of a sudden, but I'm going to say he's going to be relevant.
Yeah,
he's going to get looking at matchups. What's that?
I like that. I like that call. Yeah, it's definitely a good matchup for him. And to let you know, Baron Browning came in here, man, like a few weeks ago. All of a sudden got healthy, and he's been cutting into both Josie Jewell's snaps and the edge rusher Bonato's. If you look at when he started getting his 50% and 40% a few weeks ago, now it's increasing, I think, even more, fluctuating. That's who's paid, is Josie Jewell and Bonato. Both of them have dropped in like 10, 15% a week to give Baron Browning more edge rusher and I guess just regular inside linebacker or linebacker type snaps.
So I'm going to take a detour real quick for Logan Wilson. I'm going to go over on the IDP snap count page, which is really good. If you're a subscriber, if you're on our site, you could always go over here and look at these premium tools as well. But look at Logan Wilson every week, 100%. Week 2, 99. Okay, he took a nap that week, I guess. We can't fault him, right? Week 3, 100%, 100%, 100%. He just goes all the way down the line. Look at these high volume points, okay? PFF doesn't grade him very well. For the audience at home that can't see my screen, I'm just pulling up his stats. Usually he's a 100% guy, and he's within the range of 60 to 70 snaps a game. But, when you look at his stats, 67 tackles, that's decent on the year, tied for 13th. 18th assist, tied for 37th. Interceptions, 3, tied for first. That's one thing about him that most people don't realize. He's great in coverage. For his position, he's excellent in coverage. His coverage grade's a 54.6 PFF. Mostly linebackers are in the 30s. They're not known to be a coverage people. Run defense is 62.5. And Gary, on that note, that's probably another reason why we're seeing a lot more safeties, because it's easier to get a safety, get strong, and make a tackle as opposed to try to get a linebacker to cover more often than not, I bet.
Yeah.
That's probably why the NFL's kind of
That's the name of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's if you want a linebacker, that's what they were trying to do with like Chin. There's a few of them. There are those linebacker hybrids, or you have you guys that are just excel as weak side linebackers in coverage, but you don't get a lot of base tackles out of them because they're not in the box stopping the run like the main run stopper is the Mike linebacker. So yeah, I like the safeties. They're coming up. But there's so freaking many of them, man.
Yeah, right.
Can't keep track of them. One in, one out. One in, one out. Yeah.
You just don't know. And then, so next on my list, I put Singleton at 7, Logan Wilson at 8, Jordan Brooks at 9. We talk him almost every episode. He doesn't really hit my list of percentages for this, whatever. For a guy like that, who cares? The guy beat an ACL injury and he's come back. He's a track star. He's a thoroughbred. You got to put him somewhere in your rankings. Why not there? Why not? Oh, yeah. He's going to blow up for you or he isn't. 10, I've been thinking about a lot. We've been getting some comments from the mailbag, which I'll read to you. But 10, I got Quincy Williams. And, a lot of the comments are talking about Quincy Williams a little bit on a down, and that may be true. A couple comments were saying he may or may not be injured. I was looking at the tape on this because we compared a couple weeks ago. We compared Quincy Williams to my number 16 on my list, Devin Lloyd. And we're looking at it. Devin Lloyd's up and coming. But, Quincy's still in the box, in the main role here. If you're giving me an option between a have and a have not, I'm taking the have any day of the week. The name of the game is not talent in IDP. The name of the game is usage. This guy's still in the position to make the plays, but I'm going to go ahead and play him as such. So Stephen Smith has been writing me a lot of good stuff. Stephen Smith, 9582, and he's been talking about, I think the injuries are catching up with Quincy Williams. I can't say that for sure, but the last 3 or 4 games, he's been hurt a little bit. I will say this. I watched the Miami game, and it looks like he was getting thrown around a little bit. It looks like it. So more to follow on that. He may, in fact, actually be where am I trying to go with this? he may in fact actually be hurt, and we don't know. I mean, I don't have any data on it.
Yeah,
I know his history is his hands, his hips. Any
to
thoughts on that,
follow it
Gary?
up, I couldn't find anything. I dove into it, and I'll tell you what, people might be surprised. Right now, he's got like an 85 PFF grade. He has never played like this. He is usually like subpar 50s and shit like that for the last 3 years. And the only reason he got that big golf season contract and got paid and got this last chance here is because his big bro is the main clog in this defense up in the front line. If you didn't know it, Quincy Williams and Quentin Williams are brothers.
Right.
One gets paid, the other got paid. I'm telling you, Quincy's been doing this for the last couple of years, being productive when he stayed healthy. That's the difference this year. He's actually stayed healthy until a knee injury last week. We'll see. I wouldn't flip out too much, though. If you're in a redraft, I wouldn't get dropping Quincy Williams right off the gate if he's been feeling his need for you up to this point. Let's see. Let's see at least 2 weeks in a row, man. People have flops. Aaron Donald just flopped. Nick Bosa flops. I think Garrett just had a down game a couple of days ago. I don't know if he flopped, but it happens.
Right. And, the bottom of this list, I'm kind of throwing pennies in the lake. I'm looking at kind of wishful thinking. So I won't spend a whole lot of time here, but there's some good meat on the bone. You got a number 11 Greenlaw. You got 12 Quay Walker, 13 of Landon Roberts, 14 and 15. We know these guys as defensive linemen, but Watt and Parsons, those two, great matchup. Either way, they're going to get it this week. The next bubble I have, Azeez, Devin Lloyd, Frankie Lavu, Trey Crankle, they'll get it too. So the only ones I really want to look at here, I want to look at Quay Walker real quick with you. For those that can't see my screen at home, I'm going over to Fantasy Data. Fantasy Data is a quick way to get cheap stats real quick. Quay Walker is one of those guys I've been waiting for him all year. If you look at his data, Gary, he's one of the few players this year to actually hit 17 tackles twice this season. Week 4, 10 and 9, and then he did it again. Let's see, what else did he do? He did it again. Yeah, he did it week 2 as well, 8 and 9. So he has the potential to pop. The problem is he hasn't been healthy. And I've been doing a lot of my leagues. Very sneaky thing to do. Isaiah McDuffie. He's the rotational tire for either him or Campbell. It's like every other week I'm getting play out of that guy. But the Packers.
McDuffie's not very good either, but he's still productive by default. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, right. Yeah, doesn't matter at all. But he's there to play. But Walker would be a little higher for me if he can just show me he's on the field. But he's playing Kansas City this week. So
the funny thing is, if DeAndre Campbell is healthy, Walker, it kind of balances out a little bit better than when McDuffie is, because if you're an opposing offensive coordinator, you're not running towards Quay Walker. You're running against the guy because Campbell's been out for a couple of games, especially. You're gonna run against the other linebacker McDuffie that's subpar. That's why McDuffie can get his production each week that he does get in there. He gets picked on, wouldn't you? I'm either going to pick on him other than Campbell or other than Walker. I'm going after this dude. So, yeah, beautiful point.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my linebacker rankings. We love linebackers. Nothing really glamorous about it. I'm looking for snap guys. I'm looking for the snap count. I'm looking for the hogs. Do you see anybody else you put in there? Do you have any rebuttals on any of that?
No, not whatsoever.
Yeah. So that kind of completes my rankings for the week.
Let's get another shot of that before you go.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what I usually do for the audience while we're sitting here talking, Gary, I kind of show them my whole entire screen. Now, granted, some of this is going to change. It's only Wednesday, but number 1, I got Olakun. Number 2, I got Franklin. 3, I got Wagner. 4, I got Mosley. 5, I got Warner. 6, I got Ernest Jones. 7, I got Singleton. 8, I got Logan Wilson. 9, I got Jordan Brooks. 10, I got Quincy Williams. 11, I got Drake Greenlaw. 12, Quay Walker. 13, Landon Roberts. 14, Watt. 15, Parsons. And then on the bubble, we got Azeez, Lloyd, Lavu, Tranquil. For obvious reasons. Yep. be on the lookout for a couple of these guys. I put Josh Woods 33. He's a little bit frustrating because he got all the snaps, didn't he? But he got outplayed.
Yeah, Chris Barnes outplayed him per snap. Chris Barnes only got like 40% of the snaps or something like that. So it's kind of hard to fall. It's hard. What's that? Yeah, it's kind of hard to fall in love with right off the top. Let's give Josh Woods a couple more weeks and see how productive by default he'll be, because it's not really all that good. But neither is Chris Barnes. But that's not the name of the game.
Right. It's just so maddening because you call it right. You do, and for the audience that can see my screen, I'm just going through my rankings again so you guys can look and see what I have ranked. If you're a paid subscriber or if you're on YouTube, you can see all my rankings here. But yeah, what we were saying though, you call it right, the right guy who's in the position, and then he gets outplayed like that. It's just so maddening. But again, if you were to ask me about players, give me the one that's going to be on the field. Give me the one that's going to have the plays. I'd rather. What's the old expression? One in the hand is better than two in the bush. That's
definitely.
That's what I'd rather.
Consistency. Yeah. That's why I'm sitting there saying what I was saying with Quincy Williams. Don't bail on him yet. One down game, no outlier news saying that he struggled. Sure, maybe he did kind of back off a little bit in that game. Who knows? But shit happens. Give him another week and see what happens. Yep.
Yeah. So,
brother, I've had a good time, man.
The only thing I did not put in this podcast that I meant to, I didn't put in. One of my guys in the fan bag was asking me about, linebackers in general. And I got so excited and I kind of went through it. He was asking me what positions are more favorable. And this is kind of sort of outdated too, but I just want to get it in here if I can for a minute or two. Back when we first started playing, and the game has changed. Back when we first started playing, the priority, or at least in any draft, 4-3 middle linebackers, you want those guys who are going to eat tackles. Okay. I know this looks like a math problem, but 4-3 middle linebackers is the first priority, followed by 3-4 inside linebackers because they kind of do the same thing. Then later, get a 4-3 weak side linebacker, then a 4-3, strong side linebacker, and then a 3-4 line outside. So let me say it again. 4-3 middle linebackers are greater than a 3-4 inside linebacker, then later a 4-3 weak side linebacker, then greater a 4-3 strong side linebacker, then greater than 3-4 outside linebacker. Somebody asked me that in the chat. I wanted to put that out to you. So I wanted to give that to you. Now, you got to be playing in some serious deep stuff to even worry about that. 1. 2, pennies in the wind, caution in the wind, whatever you want to say, whatever the phrase is. The NFL is changing. Look at all these off-ball linebackers now. A lot of those guys can play. Bobby Wagner. There's so many different guys that play off-ball now that this isn't necessarily relevant. That's why I think the NFL is kind of neat, because the game is constantly evolving. So don't ever pigeonhole yourself into one tactic or another. The game is just too too small or too big rather to worry about one thing or another. So,
right.
So anyway, I forgot to put that up earlier. I apologize. But yeah, people are asking me if there's a method. Do positions matter? Yes and no. As a norm, they do, but not necessarily when you're discussing, talent. Talent overrides all of that,
Right. And this is definitely, if I may add, because I get this hard problem talking about balanced. But if this was a sack heavy scored type thing, then a LOB would just move up the board rapidly.
Exactly.
But it really depends on your scoring. So I can tell you a real quick way you can look at that is just go look at your players' averages for the year and see how many outside linebackers are in that top 20. If you got any up there, you might want to readjust. But I love that. I mean,
yeah,
I believe I actually almost wrote something like that, a journal type, like 7 or 6 years ago or something, man. I swear to God, I love how you got that put out there. You said a math problem? Nah. Yeah. It read like cheesecake to me.
I had to dig through my mailbag because this guy here, Jamie, wrote this a couple weeks, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and I know I had you coming on. And I'm like, Gary's old school like me. I remember doing all this back in my old Yahoo leagues. We used to follow each other around, at each other drafts. And I'm like, this is what you had to do, because we really didn't have a whole lot of data, and information is just popping. It's all out there now. This is what we had to do. We had to determine, well, this guy here, he's playing the edge. This guy here is doing this. This guy here. So, yeah, that's an old school math problem. I'll tell you what, it's still relevant. It'll get you by about 80% of the time. So, if you're looking at 4-3 middle linebackers or 3-4 insides, I would take them before 4-3 weak side, 4-3 strong side, 3-4 outside. And these are funny terms, too. When you talk strong side linebacker and you talk about the Sam, well, the cornerback's replacing that now, ain't he? They're putting slot corners in those Sam. Sam's almost outdated, too. But it's just
those guys don't get – they barely see 30% of the snaps anymore. If that, a lot of the teams don't even play it. It's just it's not even existent.
Right, exactly. So, that's basically that. I just wanted to tell you guys we have a promo going on now. You save 30% off if you go to the IDP Hunter 10 is the promo code over there at the IDP network. Feel free to go on over. We have a Discord. I'm in the chat a lot. There's a Sit Starts article, and again, guys, keep watching, keep clicking, keep subscribing, keep the views up. If you guys have smart questions, leave them and we'll put them in we'll put them in the chat. Gary is a distinguished analyst, but I don't have to have, a rankings guy or an analyst guy every week. I want average Joes. I want to know what your leagues are doing. You got a unique system. And by all means, if you think you could rank better than I do, come on the show. We'll have a conversation about it. By all means, that's what we do. We only get better as a community the more we grow. The more we grow into this thing. I'm
not taking you on, brother. I'm not touching it.
Well, you know how it is. Any given week, you can fall off that quick. Have a turkey dinner, stay up a little too late. Forget Rudy Ford is not playing. You never know. You never know what happens. But anyway, thank you, Jamie, for these comments. I think I covered them all. Gary, any closing thoughts out there? Any work you're doing? What you working on these days?
Well, I'll tell you what, man. How about I just run this down real quick? You can check out all my content at the IDP Tipster on X, because I won't call it Twitter, or just go off to fffaceoff.com and you can check out my waiver wires on Mondays, and then my start sits on Wednesdays, and then we also have the Underdog, Dirty O IDP Underdog and Dirty O IDP Throwdown podcasts that I produce, and I'm in one, and I'm also on the waiver wire cocktail hour with Emerson Berry. Also,
how's that going for you? I've seen that. I was tuning in the other day.
Blast,
how you like
man.
that show?
I love it, man. That's got to be not only that, but I don't produce that one, so I don't have any of that fine detail. I just show up, talk about my IDP waiver wire app, my rolling waiver wire app, and my articles and what I got in my head. We roll on, and me and Emerson, man, we have a good time. He's a trooper too, dude. He showed up so sick this past Sunday on Sunday IDP Live with me to fill in for a host, man. He's a trooper, great guy, and he knows his offense. He's learning defense. Guess who? I'm right here.
You're showing him.
Well, he's still playing a little bit on his own, but I guess apparently he's been using my shit for a year or two or something like that. So I'm just kind of bringing him up to speed a little faster if I can.
Mm-hmm.
Asking him all my offensive questions. Ask him all my offensive questions.
You don't want them, do you? They're Dirty O to you, huh?
Yeah, no, I haven't. That's why I suck at Dirty O anymore, man. I really am. If I'm in an offensive defensive league this year, I'm 50-50 or a little bit better. That's about it. But I just gave it up about 6 years ago. So now I got to ask all the best people around me.
I'll tell you though, offense, you could always pick it up. You could always dust it off, and you know who the top wide receiver is. You know who Jerry Rice is or Justin Jefferson. IDP, you take a week or two off, and I've learned this the hard way. When a couple years ago, it all changes. I remember I had this master draft. I think it was 3 years ago. I took Shaq Leonard. That was the year before he changed his name, went crazy, whatever. And then I took Blake Martinez before he went Pokemon Go, and I just screwed myself. And I was good enough to draft. I was good enough to draft the rest of the way, but if I was I would have been totally out of that thing if you miss your first couple picks. So, we don't always hit them all. We don't always hit them all, of course.
But nope,
we try.
It's tough. Tougher than it looks.
So I guess that's where you're at nowadays. You can follow Gary on the IDP Tipster. on Twitter. I'm also there, IDP Hunter. You can catch me here during the week, IDP Guys or Fantasy Six Pack. Gary, I had fun talking with you. I had fun jamming.
Yeah, man, I loved it.
Loved it. Would you come back on?
Yes, I would.
Okay, good stuff. And then, like I said, hopefully we can collaborate a little more. I'd love to come on your show as well. So,
well, dude, I look forward to this, just getting to know each other a lot better over this next year or two or whatever, man. It's been great talking to you.
Good. I've been digging in as well. So I guess we're going to conclude the article. We're going to conclude the podcast a little bit early tonight, guys. I'll see you next week. Catch me and Gary out. The content, I just love it, Gary. And we'll see you guys soon. Take care and have a good night.
Thank you for watching this IDP Guys video. If you like this content and you want more fantasy football content, click here. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos to help you master your IDP league, click here to subscribe.